Okay, it's 9 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Henry will lead us in invocation, followed by the flag salute.
Father in heaven, we truly thank you for the blessings you bestow on us, especially the blessing of living in a free nation. Lord, we pray today that you give your guidance to our commissioners as they resolve the issues before them. And Lord, let all of us that come here today remember what your Son Jesus told us, that we should love one another as he loved us. Let us be thoughtful and respectful of each other. And Lord, at the beginning of this week, let us all, as citizens of the county, take a minute out of our day, and when we meet a county employee, give them a handshake and a well done. These folks work hard and they deserve our respect. Lord, offer this prayer in the name of our Savior, the Lord Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Tina, minutes ready to move.
The first thing I have are minutes. We have several sets from April 29th, April 30th, and May 6th.
Okay. All had a chance to review those.
Okay, so on the minutes of April 29th, I think that's the first ones, right?
Yes.
The earliest ones. So on those, there's needs to be some corrections, and we might have to wait until Brad gets here for that. There's a little bit of a language difference throughout the minutes. It talks about county road right-of-ways, whereas in the actual resolution, it talks about county roads and right-of-ways, which actually is two different things. So, and I did talk to Brad about that, so we probably need to wait till he gets here to explain to us about that. But there needs to be a correction there somehow.
Okay. We have minutes of April 30th.
And I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept those as written.
Okay, I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And May 6th.
And I'll do likewise through the minutes of May 6th as written.
Okay, motion been made. I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We do have early check.
This is for our transport fuel bid, amount of $19,342.03.
We do have a proclamation that was in your packets for EMS week, Emergency Medical Services Week, which is May 19th through 25th.
Okay. The proclamation reads, whereas emergency medical service is a vital public service and the members of the emergency medical teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services have traditionally served as a safety net for America's healthcare system. And whereas emergency medical teams consist of emergency physicians, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, and approximately 2/3 of all emergency medical service providers are volunteers. And whereas the members of the emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas Americans benefit daily from the knowledge and skills of these highly trained individuals, and it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. And whereas injury prevention and the appropriate use of the EMS system will help reduce national health care costs. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners of Marion County, State of Kansas, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th to 25th of 2019 Emergency Medical Services Week in Marion County, and encourage all residents to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Signed on this 13th day of May 2019. And I will also mention that we will be having an open house at the new EMS building in Marion Saturday morning, starting at 10, I believe, from 10 to 2.
Yes.
And there will be food being served. So encourage everyone to come.
I'll be there.
Food.
So on a proclamation, you generally do not by motion and vote to
Okay.
make that proclamation.
I will make a motion to proclaim the week of May 19th through 25th of 2019 as Emergency Medical Services Week.
I'll second.
Okay, moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We do have a pay estimate to, on the transfer station project, and the amount due is $24,094.35.
That is scheduled payment?
Yes, it's based on progress,
Right.
so we just need a motion and vote to approve the payment.
Okay. We have that billing? You have that billing?
Yeah, I see
Okay.
it. Mhm.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the billing amount on the transfer station to Nelson Valves LLC in the amount of $24,094.35.
I'll second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can go ahead and get your signature there on the bottom. Thank you. On the table, you had a response from Pat Hughes about his billing.
I seen that it was there, but I didn't have a chance to read it, but there's a lot of stuff on the table to read. That was interesting, so I did not read it yet.
Is there interest from the board in scheduling a time to go up to that new bridge that you guys worked with Dickinson County on? To do like some sort of an opening for it? Or the administrator there is asking if that's something that the commission would like to do?
Is that in conjunction with Dickinson
Yes.
County then? Do they
Yes.
have a certain date?
No, he just said that we can plan something together. I just want to make sure the board is okay with doing that.
I'm fine
I'm fine
with
with
it.
it.
Okay? I didn't want to go and make plans with him and then you would
Right.
be like, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
So, There are a lot of financial reports in your packets, so if you all, after you review those, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know and I can help you with that.
Okay.
And then we also have a request from the CDBO to reappoint Jared Jost to his position.
It appears that he's agreed to accept that position again.
Yes.
So I would make a motion to reappoint Jared Jones to the CEO.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good morning.
Okay. And other than the minutes of April 29th, and that is all the administrative that I have for today.
Do you want to address your concern?
Well, Brad, when we went to approve the minutes, I had brought up the differences that you and I had discussed on the wording of county road right-of-way versus county roads and right-of-ways. And so I said that I left that for you to explain the difference
Okay.
of the two.
Can you say where in the minutes you're talking?
All throughout the minutes. If you
Oh.
go into the minutes, right when you first start at the very beginning, at the bottom of the first page, it says granting permission to include county road right-of-way, R-O-W, road. And then, of course, when you go onto the second page, when it comes into attorney-client business, it's the same thing. It talks about Marion County road right-of-way. And then, of course, it goes on to say the proposed effective right-of-way. And then it says Marion County road right-of-ways. So when you go to the resolution, it says that Marion County consents to Expedition Win LLC inclusion of any county road and right-of-ways. And then, of course, it says the same thing down at the bottom. There is one more inclusion in the center of that, too, that says road right-of-way. And then it says not grant roads and right-of-ways crossing permit rights. So
Okay.
it's kind of back and forth no matter which line you're on.
Okay, so as far as the minutes themselves, I believe that they were prepared by what was stated in the meeting, so, because it was discussed with rights of way. So if there is a question between what was discussed in the meeting and the resolution itself, that might be a different topic.
But I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah, if the question that you'd asked me was for consistency's sake, they can mean different things depending upon the circumstances. Road right of way, and it can implicitly mean just that portion that's been developed as an actual road versus like if you use 40 feet of it and it's paved versus a 60 feet actual road right of way that's been dedicated. There's also the easement, obviously, that we have alongside of that, and whether we want to use a comprehensive term. I wasn't involved in that discussion, and I haven't reviewed it on the tape, and or on the video, so I'm sorry I didn't get that part. But I think the minutes are as discussed, so that probably ends up being as it is. But if you want to bring it up again for purposes of the resolution or consistency with what all is included and what you're contemplating in terms of granting this, then that's probably appropriate to do.
So Pat, I'm sorry, not Pat. Right. When the minutes simply says that Chair Becker read aloud a proposed resolution addressing the inclusion of Marion County road rights of way, he's directly referring to the resolution, and then the resolution says something different. So are they two separate things, the minutes versus the resolution?
Well, the resolution becomes the order. I mean, what you passed in that really is what's going to govern. If you're comfortable with the way that's worded, then fine. If for some reason that's inconsistent and needs to be revised, then we'd have to revisit the resolution.
And if we need to add a word to that part of the minutes that says where he read aloud the resolution to say roads and rights of way, since that's exactly what it says in the resolution.
So well, since I didn't sign it, it doesn't make any difference to me, but I'm just saying that to get it right, because this affects the CUP, what we are actually giving them permission to do, does it not need to be correct? Okay.
But you're talking about the minutes.
I'm talking about both. I'm on the resolution right now. There's two different places here on the resolution, but then would you not want the minutes to accurately reflect what the resolution says?
If you want me to add, to change the wording of that paragraph to say roads and road rights of way, that's fine. I mean,
So I'm not asking you to do anything, I'm asking because I don't know which one you guys actually granted permission to do. I don't know which one is the right one, is what I'm saying.
I read the resolution though,
Mhm.
verbatim.
Right.
I understand that, but the resolution says two different things as well. I guess you guys don't understand, so we'll just go ahead and forget it. I just wanted to make sure that it's right, that's all, so, but. don't
If you're,
waste your
if you're,
time.
it's not a waste of time, I mean, it's definitely worth discussing, it's just a matter of,
Yeah.
do you,
But the inclusion was the roads and roads right of way as a combination,
Mhm.
right?
I don't, if that's what your resolution was
That's what the
intended to say.
resolution, yes.
And I don't know either. That's why I had a question, because I don't know.
okay, I thought your question was in regard to the minutes, not to the resolution, so.
It was both, it was both.
Okay.
Because I was under the impression that since the minutes were talking about the resolution, that the minutes should then mimic the resolution, is what I was under the impression. But if they're two separate things, then I guess it doesn't matter.
Well, I think
So-
that it, I'm just trying to clarify if you want a correction to the minutes or not. And if you have a question about what was done with the resolution, to me, that's a separate thing than what was done with the minutes.
They generally should be consistent, no question. Now, I have had instances where the wording isn't identical in terms of the minutes versus the resolution. The resolution governs because that's the actual formal action that was taken and approved. If you're comfortable with what it says, then there's no need for us to do anything further with it. And we could add a word to make sure it's consistent in the minutes, or simply go ahead and revisit the resolution, and then you're going to create new minutes over that discussion. And if there's anything about it that doesn't feel like it's clear enough for what you intended to pass, then that would be worth the discussion. That makes sense?
I think so.
Well, it makes sense. Okay, but now take that sense and tell me how we fix this.
If when you read through the resolution, you're looking at it, you know what we passed is not fully clear, or it has two separate meanings, or it needs clarification, then we'd revisit the resolution. And basically, it can either be it's something as simple as a rescission of the prior, and you pass a new one that does fit that. And that's really the point of demarcation here.
Mhm.
If the resolution is fine the way it is and you're comfortable with what it says, then there's no need to do anything with it. Then we move back to the question of, is there any need to amend the minutes or to add to the minutes based upon what was read? And it sounds like it was read the way it's in there, right?
Yes, because I read it.
Verbatim, so I think you start with it. At this point, from what I'm seeing logically, look at the resolution and see if there's anything inconsistent about it that's troubling. And if there is, then it would be potentially revisited by action of the commission if you chose to do so.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that, but I say the minutes do not accurately reflect as to
Mhm.
what the resolution says, but you say that the resolution takes precedence, okay? So that's fine, so the resolution kind of stands alone, and that's okay.
And there's no problem with me amending the minutes if you want it changed.
Again, like I said, I didn't sign it, so it doesn't make any difference to me. I was just
Yeah,
wanting
but you're
consistency.
signing, you're approving the
because-
minutes, so if you don't feel like the minutes are correct,
The minutes-
that's.
In my opinion, the minutes are not correct,
Okay,
because they don't accurately reflect what the resolution says.
so then I think we need to address that,
Okay.
if you would like.
Then, that's what I'm saying right now, is I don't think they just don't marry up.
Okay,
Am I-
so can I ask you on that first paragraph, did you have, I mean,
Yes, you would have to write to include county roads and right-of-ways.
okay, I would have to look to see what was actually stated, right, in the meeting for the request.
Okay,
Because
so-
we're talking about what was said in the meeting, but on the part, so I don't know that without looking back or listening to the
Okay,
video,
so-
to the tape, but if on the other part, I do know that Kent read that out,
Yes.
and so, if you want me to say on that first sentence,
Okay, so if Kent read that out, then he obviously made a mistake when he was reading. Because if you read the
I'm
minutes.
summarizing that he read the resolution, and so if it, because I didn't put word for word everything that Kent said, or that whole resolution would be printed here. Do you see what I mean? So when I say Chairman Becker read aloud a proposed resolution addressing the inclusion of Marion County road rights of way, I can
Got it.
add roads and road rights of way if that makes you more comfortable.
I'm just
and
looking for
that.
consistency, because
So-
what we say here is actually affected in the CUP.
But what I'm asking is, do you want me to add roads and road rights of way to be more accurate reflection of what that resolution says?
Yes.
But the resolution becomes part of the minutes.
Yes.
Because it's there.
It's in there. Mhm.
So
Right.
it's actually, the resolution in itself, in its entirety, is part of the minutes.
So
The thing I'm
what is
trying
your
to
thoughts
solve
then?
for, yeah.
So you said that, so what is your thoughts?
I personally don't have any issues with the minutes. If we need to change a few
Okay.
words,
No, that's fine.
I don't
with
have
me.
a problem with that.
We will leave it alone then.
Okay.
You just leave it alone.
Okay, so can we get a motion to approve the minutes of April 29th?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 29th minutes as written. Anything else for the lack of a second?
Okay.
So maybe when we get the other commissioner here, maybe we could take care of that. Is he coming today?
No, he will not be here today.
We'll have to postpone those minutes until next week.
Okay, so, but if we add the word road and road rights of way, does that solve the issue for you on the minutes?
I don't want you to do anything that you don't want to do, and he's the one that read it and stuff, so I just want to bring it to their attention. I did that, and it's okay.
Okay, but it's not anything I don't want to do. I'm trying to make the minutes reflect what the commission feels is an accurate reflection of the meeting. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
So, I'm asking you a question. If it says roads and road rights of way in that sentence, does that solve that issue on this paragraph for you?
I think probably you'll need to ask Mr. Dorothy when he gets.
I'm
back.
asking you because you're the one that does not feel comfortable with it.
I don't, I made it clear, I don't feel comfortable. I
Right.
think they need to match.
Okay, so if
I
I
would-
say roads and road rights of way, does that make it?
That
okay,
would, that
is
would
that
make
the
it
correct-
match.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
That
thank
would be
you, I was just
consistent.
looking for
That would be
that.
consistent, that would be the right thing to do.
Okay,
That's
so
where I'm
then
going.
on the first page,
Mhm.
where Mr. Hellstrom is requesting that, if I review that and he says roads and road rights of way, if I change that, are you comfortable with that?
No, I'm not asking you to change anything that he said. Did
Well,
you
I-
review the minutes, did you review the tape and
I-
see exactly what they said?
No, it's a generalization.
Okay,
So if I look back and I see that he included roads and road rights of way,
Retrench those lines from the new pit to their trailer.
I don't know that we have a trencher, do we?
I don't believe
I don't think
they
so.
I
do.
don't think we have a trencher.
Yeah, and I guess their main concern was the financial part of it.
Sure.
I told them I'd bring it up, or ask.
And what is the reason for them wanting to do that, other than just the main hookups that we provided? They wanted a whole new line into their trailer, or?
Yeah, so well, where the old hydrants were, they were in the back of their trailers. And most of the hookups on the trailers that are existing are in the back. And so with that pit in the front, right now kind of what you have is a bunch of garden hoses hooked up to the front of that pit running across their yards to the back of the trailer. And, you know, most of them have been buried. And I guess the problem is the rock there. And some of them, you know, they can get 4 inches and they just hit rock.
But is there some type of code that has to be met to do that?
For the line to be buried?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. There might be, and I can look into that, but I don't.
Because I mean,
There-
conceivably, of course, they don't use them in the winter, but
Correct.
if they don't get drained out, they're just gonna be broken, aren't they?
Well, and they can, so inside that pit there where the hookup is, what they'll normally do is during the winter, or whenever they're not there, they'll just unhook it and let everything drain. Right there in that pit, which with the old system, they just unhook from the hydrant and we would disconnect everything and blow everything out. the majority of them had, it's just like maybe a 1-inch pipe, and they ran their water line through that pipe to the hydrant, or to their trailer. And now what they supplied us with, I think it's 3/4 inch, the PVC, instead of the actual garden hose. And it's made to be buried. And so pretty much what they're having to do is just drill a hole in the side of the pit that's in the ground so they can run their water line through that pit and then up to their trailer, which is, you know, it's, most of them are around 50 foot of line to get from the pit to their hookup. And like I said, 2 have already done it, and then there's like another, I think 5 or 6 that have yet to do it. And they were just asking.
Is that kind of just like, I don't know, confused, just kind of like maintenance?
Yeah, I guess part of it's education. What prompted the need to change this around and start, you know, put something new in? Do we know?
I don't know.
That was before Isaac
Yeah, that
was
was
here.
before.
Well, those were old lines.
And I do think they did have a lot of problems
Yeah,
with
they-
them cracking or breaking. And
Yeah.
they said, I think normally like 3 or 4 times a year they'd have to dig them up and repair them.
Constantly having water leaks.
And so when they redid all the lines, and you know, as far as switching from the hydrants to the pits, from my understanding, I had a very vague explanation, but I think it was something that the state required when they submitted their plans. I believe that's why it switched, and it switched from the back of their homes to the line went to the front of their homes, and that's just. Like I said, right now it's just a bunch of garden hoses hooking
Yeah.
up out of the pit, coming out the top, running across their yards, and they would like to have them buried. And I think whether or not we do anything, they will have them buried. But they were just asking, yeah, if there was something they could do, because they had already had them buried once, and now they're having to redo it, I guess.
Well, generally, the county's, I mean, I can speak to that, right, the county's obligations to that bit, obviously, was that things collect private line from that point on. So
Yes.
is it something that the county's obligated to do now?
Yes.
And then that starts to get into, well, okay, when do you make that decision, and how often do you do that, and what precedent do you create?
Or if you open up another can of worms if you start doing that.
Okay.
What do you think, Diane?
I agree.
Okay. I think that's it.
Thank you.
I do have one more thing. I was gonna ask you, Brad, with the resolution for the side-by-side UTVs, is there a certain way that needs to be stated in that brochure if we read that brochure?
No magic, but we might talk about it in terms of if you've got a draft of it,
Okay.
so what the brochure looks like, you might send it to me.
Okay, I can do
And then we'll just make sure it mirrors what it needs to.
that. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Brad?
Okay, where's my list? Part of this will be an executive session because there are updates on active litigation in 3 instances that I need to apprise you of. A couple of things though that we can talk about that aren't on the list. Let's see what these cover. Engineering, so we'll leave that for later. With regard to the depot in Florence, we got that all done, we got that all transferred, and then Tina had mentioned it, and I checked with others on that process, and we, Susan and I talked as well. There are 2 other lots, I
Let me
think,
see,
is that right?
can you hear him? Can you hear what he's saying? Not too well. But I got the mic. Oh, you got the mic over there.
Does that help?
Yeah, okay, I hope.
It won't help over here, so if you could speak up, that would be fine.
On the Florence quick claim deed that we'd already previously done and filed, after the fact found that there were 2 other lots, I think that's probably the most accurate way to say that, that we had found when I worked with the registrar. We pulled what we thought was the entire description. Well, there were 2 other lots that ultimately were acquired as well and part of that process that we need to convey as well. I've already prepared the quitclaim deed for that purpose, so if there's not an objection, I guess if you're comfortable with it, authorizing that be signed so that we can just complete that, that would be a motion I would ask you to make today. If you're not, then I will bring the actual quitclaim deed, but all it does is reflects those other 2 lots that were part of what you intended, I think, to do at the outset.
Catty corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've been separated in terms of illegal, and I did not realize that. So I need to get that done and get it filed in record. So. But I thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and make sure we had a record of the minutes that was in fact also authorized. It was intended at the outset. This is more of a clerical correction, but it is a separate transaction. I'm going to go ahead and do it as a separate quitclaim deed. That's how I've drafted it.
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So I'd probably ask for a motion.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize county council to prepare quitclaim deeds for the 2 lots in question, Florence, for the transfer of the depot.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The other one that I have that wouldn't be part of the executive session is really something that I have not broached with you, but thought it might be useful to do. We ask for it every time anyway, whether there would be any receptiveness to going ahead and institutionalizing either the public comment or a public forum at some point in your meeting. This typically you ask for at the end anyway. Do it as a formalized element of your agenda on each agenda. Allow for what I usually am used to seeing in this minutes is a sign-up sheet even for people to go ahead and sign, and then just give, they don't have to go into any detail, but a couple of words about what it is they'd like to address you about. That really helps in terms of if we get into something at the outset that appears to have the potential for addressing personnel questions or anything else, we can alert the speaker to the fact that we may have to stop that short of going too far. But I'm not trying to control what they do. I'm just trying to make sure we know, and also that you have some orderly approach to it that you can count on and that the public can as well. Knowing it's going to always be in the meeting. We want to set it at an earlier time right after the administrative business, that's fine. Some governing bodies do it that way. Others put it at the very end. That's just a matter of whether these folks want to wait through the whole meeting to address an issue that they might have that doesn't relate to the rest of your agenda. But it's just a suggestion or something for you to think about, and I thought I would mention it.
I think it makes sense.
We can also set, I normally have kind of a little instructional, this is generally the kinds of things that you can do, and civility and all of that kind of stuff is listed in that, and it's on the sheet, and we put that at the door, and people can sign up freely for that purpose, and then at the point where it comes up on the agenda, we review that and just take them in the order that they signed up. It gives it a little bit more order to it, it just makes it easier. No way am I trying to in any way eliminate that possibility or control it too much. Just nice to be able to have that so that we have a process. Also, if you want to initially limit the amount of time, if you get a situation where you've got a lot of people who want to speak on a topic, oftentimes we'll put a 3-minute or a 5-minute. You can always extend that if you wish, but just to have some kind of ground rules for it. And if that's something that you're interested in seeing, then I'll probably bring a little suggested kind of a form for that purpose.
Diane?
I just want to make sure that we're not going to, in any way, impede people who want to say anything.
Yeah.
I don't care, and I don't think we really had a problem with anybody talking about personnel other than me. So, I mean, I don't know if that's ever been a problem out there, or legal issues or anything, but I just don't want to
Yep. No, and that's what I'm reiterating.
limit what
I don't
people want to say.
I don't have any problem, that's what it's for. It's a public comment section. It's nice to have something so you know you haven't missed someone, and that as people come in and sign up, you just do them in that order. Like I said, you can choose where you put it in your meeting. The reason that some people put it earlier is oftentimes in a lot of settings, it's all cultural. If you've got someone who comes specifically to address a particular issue they have, and they have to wait through your whole meeting, and we have one of those where we're here till noon, they're sitting here for one specific purpose, not that it hurts anyone to listen to the meeting, but sometimes it's handier to accommodate that by putting it earlier in your meeting.
Now, would that be something, I've been at lots of meetings already to where they had that very same thing, but it was specifically for unrelated agenda items.
Right,
If it was already on the
Yeah.
agenda, then they were not restricted to wait till the end.
right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And in that instance, and I usually note that on there, and if it's an agenda item, someone wishes to speak to it, and you see that on the list, you'd say, that's item number, or, you know, it's going to be at 10:15. And so you'll have the opportunity at that point to speak to it if you so choose.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So,
We'll let you go ahead and move forward and see what you can. All right.
okay, I think the other items are all executive session material on current litigation or potential, one instance, but current and potential litigation.
How long do you need?
Probably at least 20 minutes. So,
Okay. I'll move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss, number 2, consultation with our attorney-client privilege in regards to potential litigation, so ASA 75-4319B with the commission and Brad until 11:06.
Can you say potential and current?
What?
You just said potential litigation, but Brad had
I'm
asked
sorry,
for
litigation.
potential and current.
Litigation and potential litigation.
Yeah, thanks.
And then we will resume back into open session.
Second.
Okay, moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on, we're actually 5 minutes ahead. I guess if you're here, we'll go ahead and get started if you're ready.
Okay, great. Tina's going to crank up the audio video there, and I put together a small video of our flooding that we had last week, so that you get a better idea of what this declaration is about. Last Tuesday, Kent, you gave us a verbal declaration of disaster. We pushed it up to the state, and now we have to finish it up with paperwork, and that's what we're here for today.
How does this open?
Just pull it apart. And what you should have in front of you, if you don't, I'll definitely give you a copy of it. You should have a copy of the proclamation for local disaster for Marion County.
That was in your packet.
Okay, I figured it was. But this is the declaration for today. The initial declaration, Mr. Chairman. Talk about the conditions that we've had, the threatenings that we've had here, and the potential damage. We had 24 county roads closed in this particular flood, and 2 state highways as well. Highway 256 and also Highway 50, both closed during this flooding, which is usually a pretty, for the state, that's not a good thing.
It's a significant event.
It is, because once you close both those roads, it was pretty hard to get around the county, because you couldn't get through those areas. And I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe that the Sheriff's Department and the rest of the rescue squads did 5 to 6 water rescues during a 24-hour period. Where we continue to tell people, if the water's there, just don't drive through. And even if you think it's good, just don't do it. So what's in front of you, Commissioner, is the proclamation declaring disaster for Marion County, to continue on what you did verbally.
If you need that, it's on page 74 of your packet, Kent. And Randy, do you have a copy of that verbal? I think we are going to need that in the verbal. For the verbal. You said you did a verbal?
Yes,
Did
you
you have some sort of
No documentation, we just contacted ADM and let
Okay.
them know. That was last Tuesday, now 5-ish in the afternoon. About the time I was dropping off sandbags.
About the time I was helping lift sandbags off the
Yeah,
truck.
that's the time.
See if this will.
And I can
This is just in north of Marion. There's no real volume to it.
Okay.
It's the drone. The drone's too high to hear most of that volume. It's just north of Marion. This is down at Doyle Creek, Peabody. The flooding that was going on. Obviously, it's not a creek anymore. It's a river for the day or two. It's very, very large. And then after that, we'll get to the Cottonwood River in Florence. took these pictures with the drones, flew out there, because really didn't want to get my boots wet. So I flew the drone. So I flew the
Let
drone.
alone went for a swim.
So yeah, well, that too. Of course, this is the Florence Bridge, known as the Fifth Street Bridge, used to be Highway 50. Now it's a little bit damp. And as we look in here in the upper right-hand corner, we will eventually see a house back there. And I don't know what happened there. Only batteries. Eventually, as we go out here a little further, and it'll go up in the air a little bit, and you'll see a house back there. We encouraged the family to live back there, and the two rental houses further on around the corner to evacuate the day before. They all said they would, but I couldn't force them out of their houses. But we did let them know it was coming, and it wasn't going to be pretty. And it wasn't. This little tiny river became a very large river.
Do we foresee quite a bit of damage on bridge structures?
On bridges?
Bridge structures, yeah, I mean, maybe we aren't,
This
we'll
particular
have to have
bridge,
inspections.
this particular bridge belongs to the city of Florence because they have property, the city owns both sides of the property. Excuse me, property on both sides of the bridge. So there's the house, and then there are more houses even further north up there. You won't see those because I didn't fly the drone that far away. But as far as bridge structures, I think we're going to be in good shape for the county. I haven't heard anything from Mr. Hogg yet if he had any bridge issues. Depending on the type of road it is, for example, Kansas Road, several years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, we had a flooding issue and it washed out part of the bridge. We were able to get money not from FEMA, but from DOT at the federal level to fix that particular bridge. Because we had different disaster monies.
Can I ask a question on that road?
Yes, sir. Which road?
Kansas, you do right off of 56 South, put the signs farther up the hill. They had it down the hill by the water with the reflector, and we had a funeral that day, and nobody knew where to turn around.
Well, okay,
I'm just saying, you put them next to the water, and they were down the hill.
We mentioned this road and bridge. I don't put out the signs.
I know, but I'm just saying, some of that stuff needs to be changed a little.
Okay. So this is the Florence area, so you get an idea just how much water we really have flowing around here, moving very fast. Well, I've been down there since. There are some trees that are completely bent over. Tells you how brutal the water was moving. As far as agricultural damage goes, Ricky Roberts and the ag people don't have a clue at this moment. I mean, they gotta wait things to get a little bit drier so they can figure this out. But there will be some ag disaster as well, no doubt about that. Sorry, there's no background music or anything. I'm just not that good with this.
It's dramatic enough.
It's dramatic. And this log jam that's sitting here goes all the way to the bottom. It is stuck right there. It goes all the way to the bottom. It's that
Well, I
much,
mean,
there's that many trees sitting right there.
That can certainly damage.
It can damage. There was some damage to the bridge, this particular bridge, on top of the bridge, and a little bit on the sides. But again, like I mentioned, that's the city of Florence's concern is to take care of that bridge because they own it. They can, if they want to get in as part of the federal declaration, they can for debris management, for moving this.
Yeah, because I
And
know
that's an
there's
eight-
been several bridges that the bridge structure may be okay, but the road bed on both sides of the bridge were gone.
Right, well, this one actually, if you remember, there's a small park right there on the southwest side of the bridge, and a lot of the sand washed up out of that and across the bridge, you can see the road, the concrete underneath. Thank you, Tina.
You're welcome.
So that's the declaration that I have in front of you, or somebody has in front of you, for your approval.
Okay, what we have here is a proclamation declaring a state of local disaster emergency for Marion County, Kansas. Whereas on this 13th day of May 2019, the Board of Commissioners of Marion County, Kansas find that certain conditions caused or imminently threaten to cause widespread or severe damage, injury, or loss of life or property in disaster proportion in Marion County, Kansas, whereas such conditions created obstructions with endangered health, safety, and welfare of persons and property within the border of Marion County, Kansas, and whereas on May 7th of 2019, Marion County received severe thunderstorm warnings and a tornado warning and experienced heavy winds and strong winds, heavy rains and strong winds with extreme wind gusts. Whereas severe and non-severe thunderstorms move across Marion County, saturating the ground, causing an immense amount of rain, generating flash flooding and rivers, creeks, and streams to flood the communities of Peabody and Florence and forcing evacuations of families. Flooding also occurred throughout the county, causing the closure of 24 county roads and 2 state highways. Many of the county roads are still impassable. Now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners of Marion County, Kansas do hereby proclaim, number 1, that pursuant to KSA 48-932 and a state of local emergency, that a state of local disaster emergency exists within Marion County, Kansas. Number 2, that the area of within the borders of Marion County, Kansas covered by this proclamation is the entire area of Marion County, Kansas. And 3, that the Board of County Commissioners shall have all rights and/or powers to perform such functions as vested in said board by and through the provisions of the Kansas Emergency Preparedness Act of 1975. It is further proclaimed that this disaster emergency declaration shall remain in effect for a period of 7 days unless terminated earlier or renewed by the consent of the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Kansas, proclaimed this 13th day of May 2019. Do you think we're going to need to extend that?
I do, because there's a lot of roads that are right now we still can't get on. So our disaster issue is still going on. We're still in the response phase until we can actually go out and find out what the problem is and return to recovery.
So we need to go ahead and approve the proclamation as read, and then act on an extension to it.
In 7 days, if we need to continue, we'll do an extension.
Okay, because that's going to be on the 20th. This is the 13th. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation declaring a state of local emergency for Marion County, Kansas.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second resolution in front of you doesn't have a video. This resolution is in the final clause, is giving me permission to have access to the control point in the Marion Lake so I can withdraw water during wildland fires.
All right, it looks like in the packet I gave you 2 of the proclamations and not the resolution. Let me make you a copy.
Okay.
Okay.
This is,
You had a spelling correction on it, so.
that's not all word.
When you sign it, we did have if you sign it, we did have a spelling error on it, so we corrected, so if you can sign this copy.
Oh,
when
just
it's
that's the
done.
corrected copy?
Yes.
I see. Okay.
But this is a copy of what it is.
You want me to read that one then, so we
Sure.
got the correct?
No spell check on my fingers sometimes.
Okay. You have a resolution number?
Well, did you want to discuss before you pass?
Okay. Is there
And I'll go get that number for you.
any, you have any discussion item on
I
that?
don't have any questions on that now.
What this does, it gives me the authority to request this permit so that we can dig for water. It takes at least 8 foot of water to put what they call Bambi buckets that come off a helicopter into the water to withdraw it. This lake over here, the water belongs to the state of Kansas, so I have to get a permit from the state of Kansas to actually dip. It'll cost $200 for the permit, and that lasts for 20 years, so it's really $20 a year for the whole permit. But that's what this resolution will give me permission to sign for this, to ask for to take care of that.
What about the federal reservoir?
That's already taken care of, it's already in their disaster plan. I just have to make a phone call to them and make it happen.
Okay.
And like I said, helicopters will go to the first biggest water they find. And being that this works as it does, let's see if I have it here. Here are 2 ramps with radiuses. They're both 20-mile radiuses, one for the Marion Lake and one for the Marion Reservoir. Gives you an idea how much it covers.
Okay.
One covers more, of course, because it's sitting directly in the middle of the county, as opposed to one setting off. But we do cover almost the entire county. It's the two different maps. One's from the reservoir, one's from the lake.
What are all the little circles up in here?
That's our wind turbine farm.
Okay.
We don't want the helicopters to run into them, those are one different reason.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah. No, man, you can hang on to those.
Okay, the resolution number is 2019-07.
07.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 2019-07, a resolution to approve and adopt giving a legal access for control of the point of diversion at the Marion County Lake to the Marion County Emergency Management Director for wildland fire suppression. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Kansas has the responsibility to protect the inhabitants of the county from hazards of natural or man-made disasters, and whereas the county has established an emergency management agency for the purpose of assuming as a designated disaster agency responsibility for coordinating the mitigation of, preparedness for, response to, and recovery from disasters. Therefore, it is resolved that the Marion County Board of County Commission gives legal access to or control of the point of diversion at the Marion County Lake to the Marion County Emergency Management Director. This will allow the Marion County Emergency Management Director to have the ability to direct state and federal aerial wildland fire resources to remove water from the Marion County lake to suppress wildland fires. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2019-07.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the last thing in here deals with the disasters we got going on. We've already started throughout the state on the impact statements for this particular flooding. I talked to Mr. Holland last Thursday. I told him that I need by Thursday at noon today all the damage that he's able to locate currently, because I know there'll be some that he can't find right now. Our threshold is $67,000 for Marion County. That's based on population. For example, Wichita's will be a lot higher than ours. Sedgwick County will. So once we meet $67,000 in damage, we're eligible to be a part of the FEMA declaration as it goes forward. We meet our threshold, then the state of Kansas has a threshold, I believe there's $4.5 million total. Once they add in all the other counties that are going to have damage, Cali County, Sumner County, everyone else is within this, then they put it all together to meet the threshold, and then it moves forward to FEMA. Sometimes, yes, sir.
If those funds get approved at some point in time, which I'm sure is going to be down the road quite a ways, whether they break it out by population?
No, by projects. So the projects that Mr. Hall gives me, and then we have a kickoff meeting before we get into the whole mess. So let's say Mr. Hall gives me 23 projects today, and in a month and a half, when it's all approved and we start the kickoff meeting, he finds another 16 of them. We can add those in. It won't be neglected because it'll be part of the same process. So we'll be able to add those in there too. So I'm waiting for Mr. Hall to contact me by next Thursday with the information he has, so we can move forward, because I'll have to tabulate it together. The city of Peabody says they have no damage. To be included in the city of Florence doesn't, as far as the city does. There's not an individual declaration for individuals called households. There's not enough damage for that here. We didn't have any houses involved. It was all critical infrastructure and roads and bridges, things like that. It wasn't houses, so there are two different disasters. One's for public and one's for individual.
Very good. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep going.
Thanks for being available all hours of the day last week.
Not a problem. There's probably more sandbags. Tina, could you email me the,
Yeah.
thank you. I'll go this way.
Okay. I guess it's close enough to 10:30.
Did you want to go back to the, are you okay to go back to the minutes?
Sure.
I did have a chance while you were in executive session to review, or do you want to just table this for another day? Doesn't matter to me.
Diane?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so I highlighted on the first and second page. In the request, Mr. Pellstring said county rights of way. So if we take out road, then that would be more accurate to reflect the meeting. And then on the second paragraph, I just put what was in the title of the resolution there because that's what it was about, but it does, if we add the word roads and road rights of way, then that probably fix what you're wanting to correct there, Diane.
Okay, so I just doing it at that one spot, not all the spots, because some places said right, wait, see, I'm looking at this. Yeah, right down here it says Marion County Road Rights of Way.
Right, that's what was, is that the motion? Because that's the way the motion was stated. It was just based on the title of the resolution, but when he read it, I just put a general statement of what it was that he read, and so that would be appropriate if you want that change to say roads and road rights of way. And if you want to take some time to look it over and maybe make a decision next week, that's fine.
I do.
Sure.
Okay. Put on that, not approved yet.
Yeah, so that's the proposed amendments that I think
Okay.
would make it more consistent.
Okay. Is that it, Ken?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on, I'm going to ask for an executive session. I'm going to move that we recession to executive session in order to discuss, number one, personnel matters of non-elected personnel in regards to county engineer position pursuant to KSA 75-4319B with the commission and our council, Brad, until 10:40. We will resume back in open session at that time.
Second.
Okay, you moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Session, executive session in order to discuss, number one, item personnel matters of non-elected personnel, discuss the county engineer position pursuant to KSA 75-4319B with the commission, Council Brad, and Bryce Goebel until 10:52, be 10 minutes, and we'll resume back in open session.
He just called, he said if you need him for anything, he could be on the phone. So, he's done with his meeting, so. And if you don't, that's fine too, he just make himself available.
Set it up. Okay. Out of executive session, no action taken. That was the last agenda item. I'll open it up to public comment at this point.
Randy ain't here, so I don't have anybody to argue with, so. Well, I was going to.
Anyone else have anything?
So is there no action today on hiring?
No action.
Okay.
Okay. One more chance. If not, I'm going to make.
So that's the
okay,
public, right?
For the public.
Yes. So I would just like to somehow state that we need to go back to planning and zoning on the Article 27. And I think there's several things in that Article 27 that I just learned this week that pertain to the CDP that we really need to address. And I'm not quite sure how we do that. So, because I really think we've made some big boo-boos and we need to fix them. I just want to get them fixed. And it's going to take some time.
With our planning and zoning director here.
I'm almost thinking it needs to go before the board with planning and zoning myself, but I don't know how it is.
Either way, I mean, she's your staff liaison. I guess your starting point begins with you in terms of, okay, we have the following additional areas of concern. That's what she asked you for. And we specifically would like to talk about those. What's our best and most efficient approach to do so? A joint session with the Planning and Zoning Board, or is it something you can reduce to a list that's comprehensive and thorough enough to give to them? I suspect this involves some exchanges, the way it sounds, in terms of if you go through a whole article, that it may well be in your best interest to do that as a joint kind of a session and discuss it. But that's conjecture on my part. I don't know how that will turn out. So is that what you're asking for?
When you say joint, what do you say?
Take your planning and zoning commission and have them meet with you. Or
The
Sharon.
whole board.
Yeah, either one. It's a matter of, I mean, you can certainly do it with Sharon to start with, and then she's going to serve as a conduit and take it to them. But if you're trying to do this in a more expedited fashion, I've seen that be effective where the commission meets with them and says, okay, these are our concerns. So that they hear it, can ask questions, and there's some dynamic there that, and an exchange that goes on right there. Tina may have other thoughts too, I don't know.
Nope.
Well, it just, that Article 27, I mean, we
Yeah.
have got so many issues with that, I think. I mean, it just seems to me as though there's a lot of wiggle room in that litigation. And it's kind of a self-inflicted wound. We brought it on ourselves. And so I've been saying it now for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, months, whatever, as I learn these different things, I'm just asking for a fix, rather than let's ignore it, because it's gonna come back to bite us, I really think. And so whatever the proper procedure is, I've been screaming and yelling, and that don't hurt, so whatever the proper procedure is to get it fixed, well,
Well, are you comfortable with just us meeting with Sharon and you laying out the specifics and then having her take it? Because it's gonna, probably gonna take
I have
some
to ask
time
why,
get
I don't
everybody
understand why
together.
we have not had a planning and zoning meeting yet. I mean, for the board, we had one, and that really was just an educational type presentation. This is the first year that I know of that here we are mid-May and really had no just general meeting, and you got new board members and everything, and I just don't understand why there's not a little movement there. I'd like to see a little movement.
I think it depends on if there is a.
Generally, they don't meet unless there's something for them to consider, an
Mhm.
application. That's probably why they haven't had any. And what was your question?
Just whether they had anything scheduled upcoming in the near term.
I believe there might be 2 special meetings that are scheduled.
Yeah, it's in our packet.
That are specific for 2 separate applications for projects.
If they're far enough out, if they have to that agenda, and simply to ask for a joint session.
One of them is on May 29th, and one of them is on June 3rd.
So those would be options, because they're far enough away, or you could need to do it sooner, you make the request, and we gather everyone together. And just leave it there.
Well, I just think we should be doing something else. I mean, the sooner the better, would be my thing.
So, I don't know if Sharon's around.
I don't know that, I can find out. I mean, I think what we scheduled was time for the board to discuss what they wanted them to review specifically, and that discussion between your board did not happen.
Which board?
This board. We scheduled that on the agenda so that you as a commission could discuss the specific areas of concern about Article 27 and develop a list of what you want addressed or what you would like to have reviewed, and that would be presented then back as a letter from the board to the planning commission to say we would like these areas reviewed.
Mhm.
But that didn't happen
No, it
because
didn't.
there hasn't been collaboration between this board where
Correct.
everyone has an understanding
Mhm.
and an agreement as far as what you would like to see reviewed.
Right. and
So
but
that's
I-
kind of where we are. I
Okay,
mean-
so, yeah, and you're exactly right. And I have brought this up several times, and I don't get,
Right.
I don't get with the commission an interest or a concern to
What
even
I
check
have,
it out.
kind of what I
And
have
so
seen
it's-
is, it's not that there's not an interest, but once it's brought up, there's not information that's being shared between all 3 of you to be able to look at what the actual concerns are.
We have a specific list.
Right, if there's a list that you want to bring to the board so that you can come to a consensus, I mean, that's where we were.
Do you have any idea what some of the concerns are with Article 27?
From what you've mentioned, you also could go ahead and take that up on Friday. We can just figure it's the afternoon. And deal with, any issues that really need to come up as a special on Friday and put this on there as well. And then, any specifics, along with, even if it turns into a general discussion about all this whole what ifs, and you just do what you can and let the process unfold if there are concerns, so we get them addressed. And that's what I would suggest. Start with that then, because that's kind of where it lays right now. And then if that list, we can invite Sharon to be there for part of it. Then you don't have to worry about trying about Friday to get the entire planning and zoning commission together. But you'd have her there. And you have by the time you get through the end of the day, we've got a pretty good list that she can take to them. And then they can come back and say, well, we really would like board to be joined because we've got more questions, or, it at least starts it. That's what you want to do.
Right, well, and some of it was when I brought it up a couple of weeks ago, and I remember I sat here and I read on
Mhm.
different articles, different issues, and so, I mean, I did bring it out. Nobody either comprehended it or was concerned enough to jump on it. And even when I asked, did you read Article 27, I guess, it just went nowhere. And to me, from what I'm learning and actually taking it serious, and just by reading Article 27, I just assumed, which is, when you read that, then you also see how it incorporates Article 19, 31, and different ones, that you would sort of upon yourself to go ahead and find out what those restrictions and things that were taken away. I just assumed everybody would have done that. Well, that didn't happen.
Well, then maybe
So-
on your work session, what you need to do
Excuse
is
me.
do that.
So I was just finishing up here a little bit. So, but that's what I assumed when I first presented it. And I presented it in that fashion. And then the second time I brought it up again, because it's just kind of being blown off. And so I'm going to do it one more time. And so if we can do it on Friday, that'll be fine. But it's going to take some reading and application from other people as well. I mean, they're going to have to apply themselves a little bit to understand what, because I've been doing this now for months, reading this, and I just learned something brand new again this past week.
Well, it
So-
sounds like, report to be done in the context of a full discussion, probably do need to make it part of that special meeting with an, advance request that everybody come having read it. And then
Well, I was just going to mention, it may need to be that the board needs to review it line by line in
Yeah,
their meeting
yeah.
to decide which points there are.
And that's my point.
If they want to be
Yeah,
discussed.
That would
discussion.
probably be the best way.
That's what I was going to suggest.
That would be,
Then you know it's been covered.
So, okay, so now,
So we want to
I'll
add
set
that
that.
on to our special meeting.
Ken, are you going to be here, Brad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
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 Any other comments?
Did we determine where we're calling that? Is it afternoon?
What are we calling that meeting?
1:30? So 4 quarters. I don't know what Randy's schedule accommodates.
1 or 1:30?
I have no idea what you're talking about. or
Special
what
meeting.
the-
Special meeting Friday. Special meeting
Sorry,
Friday.
you didn't tell me.
Special meeting on Friday the 17th.
Does that conflict with you in any way?
I don't know.
Okay. What time?
That's what we're discussing. I think probably it'll be afternoon.
There's nothing on commission calendar at this point, so.
So we say 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock Friday.
1 o'clock?
And it will be
For the discussion of the county engineer
okay.
position and discussion of Article 27
And related matters.
and related.
Makes it
Yes.
broad enough to-
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Diane?
No.
Okay. Anything else from the public? If not, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.